Every morning you walk into school with a plan, and by 9 a.m., that plan is gone. You are constantly interrupted, constantly pulled into decisions that, frankly, somebody else should be making, and constantly the person that everybody is waiting on before they can move. And you probably think you have a boundaries problem, but you don't. You actually have a systems problem. And those two problems have completely different solutions. So by the end of our time together, you're going to know exactly what's causing all those interruptions. And you're also going to know what needs to be built to stop them and how to start this week, not next semester, not over the summer, this week. So I've spent 20 years coaching principals across the country, and I see this pattern in almost every single school that I work with, even schools with some of the best principals I've ever met. Now, here's the good news: it's completely fixable once you know what you're actually dealing with. So, a few weeks ago, I was a guest on a podcast and the host really put me through my paces. They came prepared with real scenarios that principals face all the time that were detailed and specific, and these are pressure-filled situations, and they were designed to test whether I actually had answers or did I just have frameworks. And so, listen to this first question. Imagine you're leading a school where the test scores have declined for 2 consecutive years. District pressure is mounting and staff morale is low. What is your first move? See, tough question, right? So I gave my answer, but halfway through talking, I started to worry that my answer wasn't all that sexy. So I thought I could do better on the next question. So here was the next question. You walk into a school where everything looks in place. Lesson plans are submitted, pacing guides are followed, but students aren't really engaged and learning feels surface level. How do you shift from compliance to real learning without creating resistance? See, I told you the questions were tough, right? So I tried to think of something different to say this time, something more targeted to that specific scenario, something that would, sound really smart and make everybody listening go, ooh, wow. But the truth is, I kept arriving at the same place every single time, question after question. I kept saying the same answer. You have to anchor in your vision. That's it. That's the answer. There's no tactic or new leadership strategy. There's no sexy ninja move. Your 100% vision is the only thing that makes any of it solvable. Low morale, that's not a motivation problem. When you don't have a solid vision, mission, and core values, you're left chasing incremental gains. And incremental gains means you're working really hard while quietly accepting that some students will still fail. And your staff feels that. They can't name it, but they feel the absence of something to which it is fully worth committing. And so the only way to fix a morale issue at the root is to give people something real in which to believe. Everything else is a band aid on a wound that's going to just, I don't know, keep reopening. And compliance works the same way. You don't get real learning by managing away compliance out of a classroom. You get real learning when your vision and your mission and your core values make compliance impossible. You see, in a 100% school, there's no room for compliance because the work is too clear and too urgent for anybody to merely be going through the motions. So, anyway, I'll put a link to the podcast here so you can hear me working through it in real time. But what struck me after I got off the call was, I just kept giving that same answer. But the truth is that while leadership makes things really complicated, buildership makes things incredibly simple. And that means that instead of looking for a million answers to a million different problems, you really only need one simple answer. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. Because here's what I'm seeing. A few weeks ago, in office hours inside of Buildership University, a principal came in and, she was looking exhausted, right? Now, she's good at this work. She's sharp. She's committed. I love working with her. She's got a clear 100% vision. She's done the alignment work. People are excited. She was building something really real. So I asked her what was going on. And she goes, it's the typical stuff. I keep getting pulled into meetings because my team wants me there before they make any decisions. And, on top of that, the kids, they've been acting up. So I'm getting interrupted constantly with discipline referrals, and my inbox is unmanageable. It's just a lot. I just probably need to do some, better job of, some time management or something like that. So I asked her to say more about the meetings, and it turned out that she's being CC'd on almost every email in the building, every single one. And if she wasn't in a team meeting, the team would just table the discussion until she could be present. So decisions were sitting in holding patterns, waiting for her green light. And so what that meant was her calendar belonged entirely to everybody else's needs. And she wasn't getting interrupted occasionally. Interrupting her was the entire system. So I asked her how long this had been going on. And, she thought about it for a minute. And then she said, yeah, it kind of crept up on me. I think it got worse after winter break when everything started happening in the district. I think people just got nervous and they wanted to feel like somebody was in charge. So there's that word nervous. And that word nervous makes me nervous because when the world gets nervous and unstable, people instinctively look for stability. And in school, that stable center is often you. So they pull towards you, more emails, more meeting requests, more decisions waiting for your approval. And you, because you are good at what you do and you genuinely care about your people, you show up. You answer the emails, you attend the meetings, you make the calls. And it feels like what true leadership is all about. It feels like exactly what you should be doing right now. And that's the problem. Because here's how we were trained. Everything about your preparation as a principal or as a leader trained you to be the solution. So when a teacher can't handle a situation, you handle it. When a parent wants answers, you have them. When the district sends down a new mandate, you absorb it and translate it for your staff. When something breaks, you fix it. And when things feel uncertain, you project certainty. You were trained to be the person every problem runs to, and you've gotten good at it. But here's the trap. If you are the solution to every problem in your building, that's not a healthy school, that's a dependent one. Every system that runs on your personal presence, your approval, your energy, your intervention is not a system. It's you, and you can't scale. You can't attend 7 meetings simultaneously, review every email, process every single disciplinary referral. You can't sit in every parent meeting or every phone call. And you also build a 100% school. You can't do it all. You see, leadership training prepared you to be indispensable, but buildership requires you to become a necessary. Those are not the same goal. Under normal circumstances, that tension is manageable. But when the pressure hits, and right now we're under a lot of pressure, y'all, every trained instinct that you have is pulling you back towards being indispensable because indispensable feels like leadership and leadership feels like the responsible thing. And that's how slip happens. But here's the 100% principle. The interruptions are not the problem. They're the bill that's coming due on systems that you haven't built yet. So to show you what I mean, let's go back to that principal in office hours, right? So after she finished describing the meetings and the emails and the discipline referrals, I asked her a different kind of question. I said, do you remember when you first shared your 100% vision with your staff? And she lit up a little, like, even though she's exhausted, that vision can still light her up. And she said, yeah, they were so excited. People were coming up to me with ideas. There was this real energy in the building. And so I asked her what happened to that energy. And she was quiet for a moment. And then she said, I think they still believe in the vision, but I don't think they know how to act on it without me telling them what to do next. And there it is. You see, the reason her staff was pulling her into every meeting, CCing her on every email, waiting for her to greenlight everything before they moved forward wasn't because they were dependent or weak or they didn't care about the vision. It was because the vision that used to belong to everyone had quietly become hers again because there was no system that let them act on that vision without her. Now think about what that means. She did the hard work. She built a compelling vision. She got genuine buy-in. Her staff was excited. They had ideas. They were ready to move. And then, because the infrastructure for decision-making and accountability was never quite finished, all of that energy had nowhere to go except back to her. So every meeting request was a system sending her a bill. Every CC'd email was a system sending her the bill. Every table discussion was a system sending her the bill. These were not performance problems or motivation problems or capability problems. These were simply a lack of systems designed to support the vision. So I said, I don't think you have a time problem. I think that you have a systems problem. Every one of those interruptions is pointing you towards something that needs to be built. And then she said, I don't have time to build any systems right now. And I said, well, then you'll keep paying those bills every day until you do. I know that sounds harsh, but here's the reality. The vision didn't fail. Her staff didn't let her down. The work she'd done wasn't wasted. The build just wasn't finished. And an unfinished build under pressure reverts to leadership every single time. So here's what's at stake. Even the best principals can slip back into leadership under pressure. So, what I want to do now is walk you through 5 things that happen when you start to slip, because when you're living in it, it's really hard to even recognize it. And so I'll walk you through those 5 things, and at the end I'm going to show you what shifts you can use to address the systems itself. So the first thing that happens is the vision becomes yours again and only yours. You see, when your staff can't act on the vision without your presence, your vision stops being this shared commitment and it starts becoming your personal project. So the energy that existed when they first heard about it, the excitement, the ideas, the willingness to invest, those things don't disappear. They just go dormant because there's nowhere for them to go. A vision with no systems to support it, it's just a speech you gave once. And the quieter cost is this: every week that it stays dormant, it becomes harder to revive. So staff who were once energized begin to assume that the vision is aspirational, something you talk about, but not something that you can actually be about. And so they stop bringing ideas, they stop asking questions, and they simply comply. And compliance is the death of 100%. So the second thing that happens when you start to slip into leadership is the urgent permanently displaces the important. Every day that you spend handling decisions that your systems should be making is a day that you didn't spend building those systems. Every disciplinary referral that you process because there's no clear vision aligned structure is a referral that didn't move students closer to your vision. Every team meeting that you attend because there's no decision making framework is a meeting that framework didn't get built. And here's the thing, these are not small delays. They compound. And the cruel part is that the more you manage, the more there is to manage. Every problem that you solve manually creates the conditions for the same problem to return next week. So the third thing that happens is that your staff reads the decisions, not the words. So your teachers are watching what you actually do, not what you say you believe. So when you say 100% is the vision and then pivot all your energy to testing prep for the bubble kids, they notice. When you say that you trust your teams and then show up to every meeting to make the call yourself, they notice. It doesn't make them cynical, it just makes them realistic. And the realistic teachers don't invest in a vision they've watched quietly get abandoned every single time. So every time you slip back into leadership mode under pressure, what you're doing is you're teaching your staff something about how your school actually runs. And what you're teaching them is this: it runs on me, not on the vision, on me. And that lesson is hard to undo. So when your decisions consistently match your vision, even under pressure, especially under pressure, then your staff can recalibrate. They start to believe that the vision isn't situational, it's structural. And that shift in belief is what turns a staff that complies into a staff that consistently builds. You don't get there through inspiration, you get there through consistency. And consistency under pressure is only possible when the systems hold, so that you don't have to choose between your vision and whatever emergency is happening on any given day. Now, the fourth thing that happens is that you become the glue. You see, the instability right now is not creating new problems in your school. It's just exposing the ones that were already there. You see, the systems that were running on goodwill and extra effort, they're collapsing because goodwill and extra effort are in short supply these days. So what's left is exactly what you built. In schools where the build was real and complete, the pressure is revealing resilience. But in schools where the vision is strong, but the infrastructure is still being assembled, The pressure is filling every single gap with leadership. And that means that you are the glue that's holding everything together. And here's the thing about a school that runs on you during a crisis: it needs more of you every single week. The crisis doesn't resolve, the demands compound. So you have less, and the school needs more, and soon the math just stops mathing. A school with built systems doesn't need more of you when things get hard. That's what principals who have completed the build actually experience when crisis hits. The school keeps moving while they handle the emergency. And wouldn't that be great if that could happen? That's the difference between being a school that's been built and a school that's being led. And it becomes the most visible exactly when things fall apart. Now, the fifth thing that happens is that the slip is cumulative and invisible until it isn't. So you're not going to lose your 100% school all at once. You lose it one perfectly reasonable decision at a time over months, so gradually that by the time you feel the weight of it, it will feel like burnout. It will feel like staff resistance. It'll feel like the particular exhaustion of working 60 to 70 hours a week and still feeling behind. By the time that most principals recognize that they've slipped back into leadership, they've been at it for months, and the systems that were being built have been abandoned. The vision is still on the wall. You still talk about it, but you stopped building it. Now, the good news is that in all of these situations, the slip is reversible. Every single principal that I worked with who has recognized it and returned to building has seen their school respond almost immediately. It's not always instant, right? Most cases it is. A change, you can feel it almost immediately, but it does happen reliably because your staff still believes in the vision. Their energy is just dormant. It's not dead. And so the moment you start building again, your school starts moving again. And once you're back on it, the compounding starts working for you again instead of against you. So here's your 100% move for this week. I want you to do one thing and one thing only. I want you to just pull up your calendar from the last 2 weeks, and I want you to find 3 things that consumed the most of your unexpected time. I want you to think about the recurring meetings that you got pulled into, the decisions that kept coming back to you, the problems that landed on your desk that you handled, but you knew you were going to be handling them again next week. So for each one, I want you to ask a single question. What system, if it existed, would make this unnecessary? Not, how do I delegate this? Not, how do I set a boundary? Not, what should I do differently next time? I just want you to consider this. What would need to be built so this stops landing on my desk? And then write down what you see. 3 systems, 3 gaps, 3 places where leadership rushed in to fill what buildership hasn't finished yet. Now, you don't have to build them all this week, right? You just have to see it clearly, because you can't deal with it if you refuse to recognize it. And once you see it, something shifts. The interruptions stop feeling like chaos and start feeling like a very specific to-do list. And a specific to-do list is something that a builder can work with, right? And so this is where it starts, not with a perfect plan, but with a clear diagnosis. So that's your 100% move this week. And when you're done, leave me a comment. Go find me on YouTube or send a reply to the newsletter itself and tell me what you noticed, because we're all in this together. And if you have some systems that need to be built, we may be able to help you build them inside of the 100% collective. So let me know what systems you come up with, and we'll try to do something about it. That's all for today. I'll see you next week.